Good evening. I'm calling to order the Concord Township Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, August 6, 2019. And tonight we have 7 items on our agenda. The first of which is probably the most important for tonight. It's a public hearing for a zoning amendment application 0719-1 by the Auburn Career Center. And just to read this, it's requesting a zoning map amendment on a portion of land currently known as permanent parcel 08A021-0-00-051-0, whose address is 8159 Auburn, as further described in Exhibit A, and being about 0.947 acres of land from the current zoning district of Gateway Business, changing it to R1 Residential District. Before I open the public hearing, I'd like to read into the record a letter received from the Lake County Planning and Community Development Commission to Heather Freeman. And it basically says, Dear Ms. Freeman, the Lake County Planning Commission took under consideration the above-mentioned zoning district changes at their regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, July 30th, 2019. The Lake County Planning Commission recommended that the district amendment be approved with no additional recommendations. We are available to help with any aspect of this recommendation. If you have any questions, feel free to call Dave Radishy, Director, or Joseph Rose, Planner, and it's signed by Dave Radishy, the Secretary. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing, and in doing so, I guess Auburn is represented here. Would you like to step up to the mic and give us your name and address for the record and kind of discuss your position on this?
Sure. Did you want my home address or Auburn's address?
Auburn's fine.
Okay, that's what I figured. Jeffrey Slevkowski, I'm the Executive Director of Career and Technical Education at Auburn Career Center, 8140 Auburn Road. We are respectfully requesting that this be considered because we did receive the block grant from the Community Development Office that was received there. We've heard from Commissioner Young about his support of the project. Basically, in order to fulfill the long-term vision that we have for this building, to eventually, over a couple of years, turn this into a public safety training facility, we do need the property that it sits on rezoned from, as described by Mr. Peterson, Gateway Business to R1 Residential. So it could be, so an educational facility can be housed on the property. The monies that we received from the community block grant was a sum of $35,000, and it is to help us clean up the blightness of that property, because it's pretty run down. I mean, it needs some structural assistance. It needs a good facelift. It needs to be cleared of brush and overgrowth, and put a nice drive in there. Put a fence up so that we're not disturbing the neighbors, and frankly, we're being good neighbors by fixing that place up. We don't have any money earmarked otherwise to do so. We were glad that the commissioners and the Community Development Office saw that there was some value to this. After that, we already have $10,000 from Lubrizol. Their foundation gifted us that to just basically get the pot of money started, and they've always said, once you start reaching out to others and get close to raising the $250-some thousand that it will take to make this a state-of-the-art facility, come back to us. This is just to get the ball rolling. So Lubrizol is all, they have their own firefighting force. They see the value in this. I talked to the chief at Mentor a couple weeks ago. He was lauding the idea. He says we have to send people to Canton, we have to send people to Bowling Green, we have to send people to Mahoning Valley to get this training. And here it could be right in our backyard and save our own forces, our regional forces, the time and money that they can be putting to good use somewhere else. Auburn has a public safety program right now for our adult workforce education programs. It's highly regarded. There's huge success rates for all of our students in firefighting, in paramedic, in EMT, and even we, with the programs that we have, which are so good, have to go to other places to fulfill all of the training. So it would be a benefit to our programs, but also it would be a benefit to the region for the local forces that it would serve too.
Good. Jeff, I noticed you on the map, you only have one neighbor, it looks like, next to this piece of property.
That's right.
Would this have any impact on that neighbor?
I don't think it would have any impact on it. Part of the reason that we do want to build a 6-foot privacy fence is to kind of put a buffer between the training facility and what happens next door. We wouldn't be training at night, you know, past 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You know, it's not like we're going to be in there at midnight and tearing holes in walls and, you know, cutting the roofs out of sections to simulate those things. We do trainings, you know, during the week, in the early evening, at the latest, and on Saturdays. I don't think it would have an adverse impact on them whatsoever. But I think that buffer would help a little bit with the sight line. It would help with maybe some of the sound.
Okay. Questions on the panel?
When you say sound, what kind of, I mean, will they be hearing sirens and stuff going off during this training? And
They do play the siren, but not often. I mean, they have to learn how to do all the controls inside of the fire truck that we own,
Right.
and stuff like that. So no, it's not like there's going to be a fire siren going all the time. But every once in a while, you got to blip it on and flash the flashers and stuff like that. But that's a very minor, small piece of our training. I mean, a lot of it's in the classroom, going over the theory and the learning that way, and then applying it in the training facility. So when I say, you know, there might be some noise, I mean, you might hear people, you might hear a saw every now and then for when they have to, you know, simulate cutting into the roof and venting it. But again, these are limited times when the training's taking place, and that wouldn't happen all the time. I mean, that's one component of a curriculum that takes almost a year to complete. So there might be 1 hour where a saw is going.
what's the latest during the day you would perform training and cut it off?
So we have classes that run until 9 o'clock.
At night?
At night.
Yeah.
So they go from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. You know, if it's dark outside and any of that, most of it's in the classroom.
Okay.
I mean, any of those special simulations usually occur on a Saturday because they need a bigger chunk of time to do it.
Well, I know the state requires from dusk to dawn, you can't make noise.
Sure.
So I would assume that would apply to you guys too.
I would imagine it would, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Like I said, we're trying to be good neighbors.
Okay.
We want to fix that place up and be good neighbors that way, and we want to provide a service for, you know, Concord and the greater community.
Will there be actual classes in that house?
There will not be actual classes inside the house. This
Yeah,
would
that's
only be
actually-
a training simulation facility. So the classes take place elsewhere on our campus.
Smoke and explosions or anything like
All
that?
all of the smoke training is done at our horticulture center,
Oh, okay.
which is pretty isolated from anybody around us.
Okay.
If you've ever been there, it's a long driveway that goes back, probably 1,000 feet setback.
Where most of us vote.
I'm sorry?
That's where most of us vote.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yep. So you vote back there, and if you're there in November, you can walk around the back of the building, and you'll see our burn boxes, and we have our welding program constructed a steel car that they throw some lumber in and catch that on fire and practice it. It's all controlled, obviously, and Concord Fire knows about it beforehand and all that stuff. But we do have a burn unit back there,
Okay.
and the only thing that we're imagining for inside this house would be not real smoke, but we do look as part of our big project so that they're simulating going through a house that's filled with smoke, the ventilated smoke. It's not real smoke, it's fog. It's a fog machine that just kind of makes it cloudy in there, so it simulates a real situation. So we would pump that in, and we would create an infrastructure inside of there that we could say we could put it in that room, don't put it in that room, or flood the whole house if it's a full house fire.
Any simulated explosions?
No.
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 Okay. Nothing like that.
Any impact on the tower,
Impact how?
on the neighbor?
That was
Um,
the height of this stair tower, is that like,
the height of the stair tower is a requirement by fire code for their training purposes. It has to be 3 stories tall. It's going to be a nice looking structure. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's not going to be an eyesore. You know, we have some plans on how to maybe even make sure that it's secured so that anybody just walking by in the middle of the night doesn't decide to climb up it. You know, not that there's any guarantees in life, but if we put some kind of a fencing around it to kind of let people know, hey, you're not supposed to go up there, type of a thing, that's in our plans as well. As far as, you know, having to look at it, I don't think it would be an eyesore. And actually, you'd probably be able to see it from 44, is what we're thinking. And it might be a good spot to, you know, put a little Auburn sign up there or something like that. So when people drive by, we get a little bit more advertising for our school too. But yeah, we don't want to make it obnoxious. We don't want any of this to be something that, hey, look at me. We just want to make a great facility for you know, training our first responders. That's what we're looking to do.
So the fencing would encompass the whole facility there, not just the tower,
We definitely want to put some kind of fencing around the tower. As far
in
as
addition to the fence around the property?
well, the only fence that we're envisioning around the property is along the line that the property line that we
Borders
share
the
with the neighbor.
neighbor.
Because everything else toward Girdle Road is ours. So, and when we talk about, you see in there, we talk about obstacle courses, we talk about outdoor conditioning for firefighters. There's certain things that they have to do in a certain amount of time. We would probably figure out a way that we could set that up, take it down, put it in the garage, something like that, so that it's not out there for people to think that they can play on.
Sounds like, so you're absolutely committed, it sounds like, I mean, you got your grant money, you're absolutely committed to that being the use for the property?
Yeah, we're all in on it.
So
I mean,
this is
we've done a lot of research, we've done a lot of planning, we've talked to a lot of firefighters. You know, we've talked to our superintendent has talked to the superintendent of the Mahoning County Career Center, who just was awarded a federal grant for $2 million to build a facility 10 times what we're envisioning. But yeah, we've done a lot of research, we've talked to a lot of people. It's a real ideal structure for it to happen in.
How much training, you mentioned, you know, the curriculum that you teach at Auburn, this would be used sporadically throughout a year-long program, so they wouldn't, so you're going to have downtime on that structure, but you also mentioned that neighboring fire departments, you mentioned Mentor and so forth, that you've spoken with them and they are interested in utilizing it. So how often in a year do you think that facilities, I mean, are you going to be using this every day? What's the traffic of it going to be, do you
It's a good
anticipate?
question. It's one I really hadn't thought too much about. So, like I said, we have classes on Saturdays, but it's maybe only once a month that we go to the extent of this type of a training, either a simulated fire, a simulated burn, or a simulated rescue operation. That's a very difficult question for me to ask
I'm just
or
curious.
to answer.
Yeah.
And dependent on how many fire departments want to use it for their own continuing education, because they have to continually update their arsenal. I really can't answer that, at least without.
It seems like there's a pretty good demand in Lake County for it. I mean, I assume sort of the local municipalities and so forth, the fire departments, you anticipate them being able to take advantage of that, and that's a better thing for our community, is kind of where I'm just curious how you know, forget how often it's used, but I'm just saying you're seeing demand local around. There's a good purpose for this.
Absolutely, it's vital. It's vital. I mean, I only mentioned a couple chiefs that I've talked to, but Chief Sabo,
Right.
you just ask
So
him.
it'll get some good use. Is kind
It'll
of the
get a
direction.
really good use, yes. And it'll save local dollars and not only having them spend too much of it for travel, because that's where a lot of that money goes to. It'll keep that money local because it will be a revenue source for Auburn as well.
Jeff, if this gets approved, how soon would you start and how long would it take you then to get it up and running where it's ready for
fully
Regular
functioning?
use. Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So that's when I get on Brian, our superintendent,
Yeah.
and say, hey, start knocking on doors, start picking up the phone, and let people know that this is moving, and start having foundations write those checks. We understand that, you know, we're committed to it too, so a chunk of it will come out of our general fund. I mean, we see the value in it, so we want to invest in it as well. As far as the construction on fixing up the blighted property, that cannot happen until the grant period, which starts in January.
Okay.
So we're awarded the money, I believe, in December, but the grant period is from January to October, and as soon as it's nice enough in the spring,
Yep.
we have a contractor lined up who's ready to go,
Okay.
and we would think that, I believe I said that the timeline for the purposes of the fixing up the house is April, May at the
Okay.
latest, and then hopefully, you know, we've raised enough money to kind of implement the training facility in stages.
Okay.
So over a couple years, I think we
Good.
should. I mean, that's a very safe guess.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Any other questions by the board?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything else for you. There doesn't appear to be anybody here from the general public to present any objections.
Okay.
So with that, I guess we can close the public hearing. And do I have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning as noted from Gateway Business to the R1 Residential for the application 0719-1 by Aubrey Caruso.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Frank seconds. Okay, Heather, could you call for a vote? Assuming there's no further discussion here.
Mr. Mossick?
Yes?
Mr. Peterson?
Yes?
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes,
And Mr. Repper?
Yes.
Okay. We recommend that it be approved. Thank you.
very much.
Thank-
Appreciate the consideration and recommendation. And next it goes to the trustees, is that,
Right.
can you send me that date? I think you did, but,
I'll let you know.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, second item on our agenda, and this is strictly a scheduling item, but we need to schedule for our September meeting a public hearing for zoning amendment application 0719-2 by Ralph Victor Construction Incorporated, requesting a zoning map amendment for current permanent parcel number 08-A-0-0-0-025-0 and 08-A-0-0-0-003-0, whose address is 10811 Prouty Road, and being about 25.57 acres of land from the current zoning district of R1 residential to R3 residential. So that public hearing will be scheduled for our September meeting. Item 3 on the agenda,
We need to
Excuse me,
vote.
Mr. Chairman,
We need to vote.
You need to make a
oh, okay,
motion
to vote for the scheduling. Okay,
Yeah.
can I have a motion to schedule that public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we schedule a public hearing for zoning amendment application 0719-2 by Ralph Victor Construction.
Okay, do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of scheduling the public hearing for September, say aye.
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 None opposed. Okay, that'll be scheduled for September. Item 3 then is the approval of the meeting, and this is going back to June 4th. We didn't have a quorum on our July 16th meeting because Andy and I were not here at the June meeting. So we need to approve the meeting minutes for the June 4th meeting, first of all. Do I have a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the June 4th, 2019 meeting.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Second, Sue. Okay, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain because I was not here. Then, item 4 then is the approval of the minutes to the July 16th meeting, which was the meeting that we had. We were not originally going to have a July meeting, but we had an item come up and we had the meeting on the 16th. So can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 16th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the July 16th, 2019 meeting minutes as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Abstain.
I will
Okay.
abstain.
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Abstains, right. 2 abstains.
So we have 3.
We have a quorum.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Item 5 then, correspondence report by the zoning commission members, and I'll start on the right with Morgan.
I've had a lot of correspondence with the number of residents in the township, ranging on fire station, corridor development, taxes. I don't know, it's all the highlights that come to mind at this point.
Okay, that's what happens when you run for trustee. Okay, Sue, do you have anything?
Nothing for me, no.
I have nothing. Hiram?
Nothing.
And Frank?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Audience participation, and Jeff has already participated. He's the only audience. So we have nothing further there. So our next meeting then will be scheduled for September 3rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Any other discussion for tonight before we adjourn? Nothing? Okay, we will adjourn the meeting.